Biology students, you have currently started your very last chapter for the unit all about the cell. Chapter 9 is about cellular reproduction, and it has three main sections: cellular growth, mitosis and cytokinesis, cell cycle regulation. So you took a midterm exam, and most of you did amazingly well. I'm extremely proud of you, but I will let you know you have this chapter, an additional 5 more, plus a review that we have to complete within the next few months. That's 3 months. So between snow days and all the things that we do, sports, extracurricular activities, there's just no time to slough off. This is your time to shine. So I want to remind you, the video lectures is just that. It's a lecture, or it's an overview, or it's a deeper explanation of something that I have found in the past to be a difficult concept for some to learn. If you aren't using your book and reading your book like you should and exploring every avenue to answer a question to the why, but why? Okay, but tell me why. If you're not doing that, you're going to struggle on your EOC and your final exam. So please don't make the mistake of just watching this and doing a few things that we do together in class. Every night you should be giving yourself, not me, it's not my grade. I graduated from high school. Every night you need to give yourself 15 minutes minimum, 30 is better, to read through your biology book and rewatch these videos. So the big idea of this chapter is cells go through a life cycle that includes interphase, mitosis, and cytokinesis. And the main idea of each section is cells grow until they reach their size limit, then they either stop growing or they divide. Eukaryotic cells, which are the new karyotic cells, remember that, reproduce by mitosis, the process of nuclear division, and cytokinesis, the process of cytoplasm division. They're different. And the normal cell cycle is regulated by cyclin proteins. Now, whether you're choosing to still write everything down in your composition notebook or you choose to use the note packet, I just want to remind you, essential questions are essential. This is how I come up with questions for the test. These are the questions you're going to be asked on your EOC. Some of you may not get the same questions. It's all a randomized event. So if you can answer these and not give a simple answer, but give me almost an adult answer, an explanation of the why, then you'll do very well on this chapter. So you can see selective permeability, life cycle, nucleotide, those are all some review, but look how many of the new vocabulary words you have. They're all going to be on your test. And not only will you have to be able to point to the structure and tell me what it is, but you're going to have to tell me what causes that, what happens, and put it into a real life situation. So I hope that you will be doing that. Ratio of surface area to volume is an important factor when it comes to cell size limitations. Several factors influence the cell size. Surface area is the area covered by the plasma membrane. Volume, on the other hand, is the space taken up by the inner contents of that cell inside of the plasma membrane. Cells with a higher surface area, volume ratios can sustain themselves more easily. So although this one right here can sustain itself more easily, this one here, number 1, which I understand, I'm just going to call it 1, 2, 4. Okay, so we know what we're talking about. 1, smaller cells can transport substances more easily. Well, that makes sense. If my living room and my kitchen are connected within a 300 square foot space, or let's say 11 by 12 room, then it's much easier and faster for me to get to my fridge, open my fridge, get my soda, go back to my chair, and continue watching the Super Bowl. Whereas if I live in a 5,000 square foot house and I have to go through 3 rooms, both 700 or so square feet big, to finally get to the kitchen, it's going to take a lot more energy to get there. So, with that being said, smaller cells can transport substances more easily, and this is how they do it. Diffusion is inefficient over longer distances, so diffusion wouldn't work well with this one, with 4. Cytoskeleton is less efficient when cells are larger, and cellular communication is more efficient in smaller cells. Once a cell reaches its size limit, it has two options. It can either stop growing or divide. Cells reproduce by a cycle of growing and dividing called the cell cycle. Each time a cell goes through one complete cycle, it becomes two cells. It makes a mirror image of itself. Think of about like a photocopy in the teacher's room, right? There's three main stages of the cell cycle, and you'll need to learn these because they're not going away. They will follow us into the genetic unit. Interphase is the stage during which the cell grows. It carries out cellular functions, and it replicates or copies that DNA. Mitosis is the second stage. This is the cell's nucleus and its nuclear material divide. And inside of mitosis, there are 4 substages which we have yet to learn. And finally, the end process is cytokinesis. This is when the cell's cytoplasm will divide and create 2 new cells.
Have you ever looked down at your leg or your arm to find some cut and you have no idea where it came from or how you got it? So you put a bandage on it and a few days later it's gone. It's all healed and you don't even think anything of it, of this amazing process that causes this to happen. Or let's say you're looking at your nails and you notice they're a lot longer since the last time you cut them. Or let's say you're looking in the mirror and you notice that you are a lot bigger than you were when you were 5 years old. What do all of these things have in common? Well, one major thing they have in common is mitosis. Mitosis is a type of cell division done by most of your body cells, and it's really important for cells to divide. If they didn't divide, you wouldn't grow. I mean, how do you grow if you can't make more cells, right? So one reason why you're bigger than you were when you were 5 is mitosis. Mitosis also is great for repair of damage. If you have some kind of accident, like when we were talking about that cut on your arm or leg, well, you want to make sure it gets repaired well. So you have to make more cells to do that. Mitosis is great for that. Now, it's really important to understand what it is not. Mitosis is not a process that makes sperm or egg cells, because that's something different called meiosis, which sounds like mitosis, unfortunately, but it's a different process. Mitosis is done to produce body cells. Mitosis makes identical cells. That is the goal, identical cells. So if you're trying to make more skin cells to replace worn out or damaged skin cells, you don't want to start suddenly making stomach cells there. That would be ridiculous. You want to make sure you have identical cells replacing what was lost. So mitosis makes identical cells. It's a really important thing. Now, it's also important to understand that your cells are not dividing all the time. If all they did was divide, it would just be rapid, crazy growth. In fact, this is kind of what cancer is. Cancer is uncontrolled cell growth. We have a clip on the cell cycle and what the cell is usually doing most of its daily life, which is actually a phase called interphase, where it's growing and replicating its DNA and carrying out its daily cell functions. That's where cells spend most of their time in respect to the whole cell cycle. Mitosis is a very short amount of time in respect to the whole cell cycle. But mitosis is a critical process because this is where it is going to divide and make more cells. Before we get into the steps of division, it's really important to understand that your cells have something inside them, an organelle called the nucleus. And the nucleus holds your DNA. DNA is really important because it's your genetic information. And if you're going to make more cells, you need to have the same DNA in those new cells as you did in your original cells. You want it to be identical, no mistakes. Very important. The problem is you've got a lot of DNA, and we've got to get that DNA into the new cells using mitosis. So there has to be a better way to organize that DNA. Well, what actually happens is that DNA can be organized into these condensed units called chromosomes. Chromosomes are made of DNA and protein. You've probably heard before that humans have 46 chromosomes. That means 46 chromosomes are found in most human body cell nuclei. What are nuclei? Well, it's the plural of nucleus. You don't say nucleuses, you say nuclei. Well, in the nuclei, there are 46 chromosomes. Organizing DNA into condensed chromosomes makes it a lot easier to move over when you're making new cells. So if you have 46 chromosomes in a human body cell, you have to duplicate those chromosomes in interphase before mitosis starts. That basically means you're duplicating your DNA, since chromosomes are made of DNA and protein. You have to do this before mitosis starts because if you're going to make an identical cell that has 46 chromosomes, just like the original, well, it makes sense you have to duplicate the genetic material before splitting. So if you look at our cell cycle video clip, we talk about interphase. That's a stage where most of the time cells are spending their time. They're actually duplicating their DNA during that time. So, ready for the tricky part? Well, because we tend to count chromosomes by the number of centromeres present, when the 46 chromosomes duplicate, we still say there are 46 chromosomes, as the sister chromatids are still attached, and we're counting by centromeres. So, 46 chromosomes here, they replicate in interphase, and you still have 46 chromosomes in this picture, but you went from 46 to 92 chromatids. We have a video explaining that in more depth and how that factors in for mitosis. Okay, so now we can get...
I would make a note of this, the mitosis stage of division and how they remember it, because this is very important for you to know. It's going to be on everything.
I like to tell students to remember PMAT. It's a little acronym that helps you remember. The P is for prophase, the M is for metaphase, the A is for anaphase, and the T is for telophase. So remember PMAT, the stages in order. The very first step is prophase. Prophase because it's the beginning step, the nucleus is still there, and it's going to go away later on, but this is a stage where it's actually still there. The chromosomes are visible. In fact, we say they're condensing, which means they are thickening and visible. The next stage is metaphase. M for metaphase, but I also like to remember M for middle because in this stage, the chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell. The nucleus has been disassembled. It's no longer there, so we've got the chromosomes in the middle waiting there. Next, the A is for anaphase. In anaphase, I like to think as the A for away. The chromosomes move away. They are moving to opposite sides of the cell, so they are moving towards the poles of the cell. Now, one thing to point out, these chromosomes, they're not moving by themselves. They actually have something called spindles. These spindles are fibers that help move the chromosomes to the ends. Kind of helps them move along. The last stage of mitosis, think T for telophase. In telophase, the chromosomes are actually at the complete opposite ends, and new nuclei are forming on each side to make these two new cells. The nuclei are starting to surround the chromosomes on both sides. I like to think of the T for 2 because you can really see in this step that the end goal is going to be 2 cells, and in the human body, they're each going to have 46 chromosomes. And again, remember, they are identical. Now, cytokinesis is responsible for the final separation into 2 cells by splitting the cytoplasm, which completes after the PMAT mitosis stages. So why did all this matter? Without understanding cell division, we wouldn't understand how growth and repair happens, because they both require more cells to be made. Understanding mitosis is also very important for cancer research.
Either today or tomorrow, you will want to pick up with Chapter 9, Section 1, Part 2, today or tomorrow.